They say curiosity is a gift, a spark that drives innovation, discovery, progress. But for one teenage boy, that spark lit a fire he could never put out. And his story, well, it's the kind of story that makes you question everything about power, about justice, and about what it really means to pay for your mistakes. This is the story of a kid who dared to outsmart the most secure network in the world. A kid who broke into the digital heart of the Pentagon and paid with his life. It begins in a small, unassuming town in the early 2000s, a place so quiet you could hear the cicadas buzzing in the summer heat. It was here, in a cramped bedroom with peeling wallpaper and a second-hand computer, that a boy named Eric found his escape. Eric wasn't like other kids. He didn't care much for football or hanging out at the mall. He wasn't popular, and he wasn't interested in being popular. What he cared about, what consumed him, was computers. By the time he was 12, Eric had taught himself to code. By 14, he was building his own programs. And by 16, he was diving into the dark corners of the internet, places most people didn't even know existed. To Eric, the online world wasn't just a tool, it was a playground. A place where rules were meant to be bent, broken, and rewritten. But Eric wasn't malicious. He wasn't trying to cause harm. He was just curious. How far could he go? How much could he learn? And most importantly, could he outsmart the people in charge? The Pentagon's network is one of the most secure systems in the world. It's a fortress, guarded by layers of encryption, firewalls, and some of the smartest cybersecurity minds on the planet. To hack it would be unthinkable, impossible. But Eric didn't see it that way. To him, it was a challenge, a riddle waiting to be solved. He started small, testing weaknesses in local networks, slipping past security systems just to see if he could. And then, one night, sitting in the glow of his monitor, he made a decision that would change everything. He decided to go for it. The details of how Eric breached the Pentagon's network remain classified to this day. But what we do know is that he found a way in. He exploited a vulnerability so obscure, so deeply buried, that even the experts hadn't seen it. For weeks, Eric roamed their systems undetected. He wasn't stealing secrets or planting viruses. He was just looking, browsing classified files like someone flipping through a library book. He later told a friend that it wasn't about the information itself. It was about proving he could do it. But then, like all things, it came to an end. One night, as Eric sat at his computer, the screen flashed. A message appeared. "You've been caught." His heart stopped. He barely had time to process what was happening before his screen went black. Moments later, the sound of tires screeching outside shattered the silence of his suburban street. The FBI was at his door. Eric was arrested on charges that carried a weight far heavier than any mistake a teenager should have to bear. Cyber terrorism, espionage, the kind of words you'd associate with international criminals, not a high school kid with a knack for coding. The government wanted to make an example of him, to send a message to anyone else who might think about testing their limits. But Eric wasn't a hardened criminal. He wasn't some mastermind with a vendetta. He was just a kid, a scared, overwhelmed kid who didn't fully understand the consequences of what he'd done. The trial was swift. The media painted him as a dangerous hacker, a threat to national security. The prosecutors pushed for the maximum sentence. Eric's lawyers argued that he was just a curious teenager, that his actions, while illegal, weren't malicious. In the end, Eric was sentenced to prison. 5 years. It was a heavy blow for someone so young. But the real tragedy was what came next. Prison isn't kind to people like Eric. He wasn't tough, he wasn't prepared, and the weight of everything, the guilt, the fear, the isolation, slowly crushed him. He wrote letters to his parents, apologizing over and over. He told them he didn't know if he could make it. And then, one morning, Eric was found dead in his cell. The official report said suicide. But not everyone believes that. In the years since Eric's death, rumors have swirled. Some say he was targeted, silenced, because of what he saw during his time in the Pentagon systems. Others believe his death was the result of negligence, a system that failed to see him as a human being. What's clear is that Eric's story is more than just a cautionary tale. It's a mirror, reflecting the way we treat curiosity, genius, and mistakes. Eric wasn't perfect. He made a choice, and that choice had consequences. But was the price he paid too high? Did the system fail him? These are the questions that linger, the questions that haunt those who knew him, and maybe they should haunt all of us. Curiosity is a gift, but sometimes, in the wrong hands, it can become a curse. Eric's story is a reminder of how thin the line can be between brilliance and destruction, between justice and tragedy. And perhaps, most importantly, it's a reminder of what happens when systems built to protect us forget the value of a single human life. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. And remember, every story has more than one side. If this story moved you, if it made you think, share it. Subscribe for more stories like this, stories that uncover the human truth behind extraordinary events. And as always, stay curious.